Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Barry, that Goat Metal Show, along with my partner Tone Joker NYC. We're here with Lee, the Australian black metal from War Master. Well, that's 666.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times you hear everybody just saying War Master, and they just forget, yo, there's a 666 at the end of it, man. You got to
No.
the whole thing.
Warhammer.
Hammer
Ah, shit.
Master. I'll tell you, hey,
Shit.
you know what?
So you got so
War-
look at that. You see, messed me up there too.
But
War
this
Master,
is the,
Warhammer.
666.
but how crazy is this, right? Because my biggest, like every time I'm about to write something, the funniest thing is I've listened to Satanic War Master. For some reason, that just gets the thing going, right?
Yep,
So,
yep. There you go.
so I mean, I get it because it's, I mean, not that I think I would love to sound like him, but I don't, there's something there where I kind of stole a little bit of that name. And the
Ah,
666 I thought was super like throwback to Destroyer 666. So I thought
Yeah.
that's a bit of a nod to the Australian scene. And then you jump online and everyone's like, Bozo 666, the
uh,
Devil 666. I'm like, oh good, I've got one of those names. It's just the
yeah,
common internet name now.
yeah. It's just like you hear the war, and then all of a sudden it's just like it's like Master got to be thrown into the mix. You forget, wait, it's Hammer. It's Hammer. Oh yeah.
Maybe I
Okay.
should have gone with War Master 666. Rolls off the
Nah, I
tongue
like
easier,
Hammer.
right?
Yeah, I like Warhammer. I like
I
Warhammer
like
better.
Warhammer.
Yeah,
Way
because I already just see
Yeah.
like a fucking hammer with a 666 coming at you, bashing you in the head. That's the last thing you see. Ugh, you know.
You have to go do a whole
That's what
lot
I
of shit
thought.
with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you can be the master of something, why not be the master of war, right?
Hey, or you could be the War Master of Hammers.
We're opening up a whole new realm of shit I can do with this. It's great.
All right, man. So let Tone guy wants to start you off, man. Go ahead, Tone. Hit him off with some questions there. See if he can answer stuff for us.
All right. First thing off, I see that you have a new EP out.
Uh-huh.
I purchased. I think it's
I
great,
saw
man.
it.
Yes, yes. Really like it a lot. I like your previous stuff as well. It was great stuff and all that. But yeah, just tell us a little bit about the EP and what's your plans for the future with your recordings.
Yeah. The EP was like I came off the like I say album only because it had that many songs on it, but I came off the last one with a really nice sound that I kind of really enjoyed, and it was easy to write with. And like just these songs just flew out. And I really attribute that to kind of, I guess with guitars they say it all the time, like it's the sound that kind of inspiration, right? So these songs just kind of came together really quick. But I must have had maybe 8 or 9 completed songs that I
Mm.
thought, okay, well I've got a good representation. And the whole thing was I was like, well, I know I'm not relatively, or the only people who knew about me were friends and a few other people that had bought some stuff, and I was like, well, I got some time because I bought like 30 of these CDs, and I thought I'm just going to write until these things all sell out, and it took like 3 months for the final one to go off the shelf, but sometime in between in that, I was like, I'm ready to go again. Like, I really want to push this last one out. It's something that I just kind of have to do before I start a new thing. But those songs are already written. So they were all written very similar timing to the other, the Excommunicado release. So it's not a massive departure, but what it does have, which the other one doesn't have, is like a stronger melody kick in it.
Yeah.
Like that's I really emphasize that because I just like to have things like choruses or something that you can sing along with. Like I always like the metal songs that you could sing along with that in the crowd if you ever saw them live. So I thought some of those songs had that potential. So that was kind of the vibe I went with. The rest of it, there was a few issues as far as I got myself into trouble on the internet with a group that came after me, and I was like, I used that as inspiration to put all the lyrics down. So the lyrics to me are really cool because they came from a place where I was like, fuck these people, I'm gonna show them how nasty this can be. So that was really, so kind of a little bit of it was written then, and a little bit of it was written this part, and then I think it turned out awesome. And it was a shame that I didn't have those songs when I had the last thing that came out, because I would have put those with the good songs on that album, which I really enjoyed, and it might have made a more cohesive CD. I guess that's the learning part of this process.
Yeah,
Yeah, you learn as you go.
absolutely. I mean, it's nothing better when you have people who piss you off. They're always going to make you give you great lyrics to write. You know, because, yeah, you just want to just spew it all out. It just becomes great lyrics.
Yeah.
But knowing that, with that being said, you know, considering when you was like starting up, you know, your project and doing everything, what was your main influences besides the lyrics of people pissing you off? What was other influences that were involved in the writing process?
I guess when I started, I was really kind of trying to capture like that Sodom in the Sign of Evil type of thing, because I knew I wasn't like I just started playing guitar, like just a few months into, you know, playing guitar, and I kind of, not that I knew what I was playing, but I knew that if I moved my finger from here to there and there back again, I could get some type of riff. And being that I was a drummer before then, I guess the rhythm part was easy to manipulate. So I think I failed miserably in capturing the Sodom sound, but what I picked up was kind of some old cathedral, some doomier things, some other things. So I tried to work with what I could do. But I mean, I guess I was looking towards things like Beherit and Bathory and things that I thought were going to be easier to create, which turns out that's a complete lie. Some of that stuff, you just can't recreate that with shitty guitar playing, because it probably isn't shitty guitar playing, you know, or there's some type of factor that creates that awesomeness that those bands can do, you know. And at that point I didn't have it, but I was happy with how it came out with the limitations of which I had, if that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, I mean, just from some of the stuff that I've been hearing, I mean, I wouldn't even think that you was a somewhat of a beginner guitar player or still advancing yourself in playing guitar. I mean, listen to, like, you know, the old Celtic Frost stuff, like the earlier stuff. Those guys, you know, remember, they used to just went out there, they just played whatever they and so, to them, some people didn't sound like nothing, but they tried to create a sound from that, and then next thing you know, it just evolved, you know.
Yeah.
And
another band too that was just started with their guitars and stuff and look became legends were Sepultura.
Yeah.
Sepultura, they just didn't even know how to tune their instruments.
That's right.
And they became legends. and
they arguably started a genre, or at least put it on the map, right? Yeah. And it's still kicking today. It's still a big thing today.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's why I don't you know, when I hear, you know, other musicians talk about like, oh, you know, my plan, I said, look, man, if it works, it works. You just stick to what you're doing. You're always, every time that you play, it's going to evolve. It's going to get into something else that you're going to play with. And hey, man, look, you're creating music, man, and that's something that most people won't even attempt, even, you know, to even try. They'll try and then they feel they're going to fail. You kept it going, bro, and that's what's up.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of all I've ever wanted to do. Like, I've always played in some form, but I've never played a tuned instrument, you know. And so I thought it was kind of, no one else wants to play this type of stuff, or no one that I could play with and not somehow control. You know what I mean? Like, all guitar players, they come built in with their own riffs and stuff. And I tried a few of them, and I was like, no, I don't really like it, or their attitude was a little off than mine, or I didn't think I could gel or anything like that. And, you know, I'm kind of happy I picked it up and stayed with it, because I have picked guitar up in the past and I was like, oh, this is too much. Like, there's too much going on. I'll just stick with drums. I'll find someone, you know, that'll be fine. It took forever, but I didn't find them, and turns out I went back to doing it myself. So here we are.
But now that you said you did play drums before, right?
Yeah.
Were you did you play in other bands before, and what kind of bands were they? Were they all black metal, death metal? What were you into then?
No, I played in back in I guess when I was most involved in it was probably like the mid 90s to 2000s, and how that went. There was a lot of there was a death metal band which, looking back on, was probably really good. In the time, you don't see it because there's so much other things that you're trying to do, and I was in a few I say punk bands, but looking back on them, they probably weren't punk bands. They were probably more I hate the term too. It's like indie or alternate something, and a lot of it was helping. Like, it was just people that wanted to play, and you were kind of trying to find people to play that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever wrote the songs is how it sounded. We didn't discuss it. So a few things were like, it was kind of cringy. But the death metal one, which I had back in the 90s, it was just me and a girl guitar player, and she was phenomenal, and the boyfriend. And there's another interview which I just did, and I told the story, but it's in print, so you guys will get all the expressions. But he had a problem. He had an anxiety issue, so he would get like raging like boners if he got nervous or if he was stressed out. Yeah, it was nuts. So if he had to learn a new song on the spot, or if he messed something up and someone pulled him out, like he would anyway. So it became a thing where it just was as natural as it can be, in a room full of his girlfriend and me. So it was awkward as shit, man. He'd answer the door with a boner. You can't make this shit up. And believe it or not, we played a few times. And it's weird when not that I could see it from sitting from the back, but damn well he's up there with a fucking hard on and he's playing to a crowd of dudes. And I never heard stories, but I can imagine there must have been someone who picked that up. That's cool. That's cool as shit.
That's an anxiety problem most men older than us want. So, like, oh my God, I'm nervous. Boom,
yeah. It was so weird. It was the weirdest thing. Eventually it became less weird. I just didn't look down past his chin, just keep your eyes right here.
There's any you guys did any recordings, or was there any live?
We did a live. Yeah, there was a live one which I actually recorded, and whether it be lost to the moves of back in Australia, but I couldn't find it. I did get contacted by an old friend only like a week or two ago, and they said that they had it. So I'm trying to get it to see if it's as good. And there was a video too, so I'm assuming the audio was just stripped off that. But yeah, I'm trying to track it down to see if it's how I remember it. So fingers crossed on that one.
Yeah, man, that'd be cool. That'd be cool to see, man. Why not?
Interesting.
Well, Lee, real quick, what bands influenced you when you were growing up in Australia?
Kiss were my biggest thing. I always loved Kiss. I don't necessarily know why, because they changed so many things, and they put out duds and they put out things that were just like horrible, but I couldn't stop being drawn to that thing. And I'm going to go ahead and assume that I loved imagery of bands. You know what I mean? So with a band like that, it was all about the spectacular, the makeup and the fireworks. And I think that must have interested me at some point. But it's funny because I joined them in the, when I got on Kiss train, it was the 80s. So they didn't really have that. But I've always been drawn to bands that had that strong kind of image, and Motley Crue was another one which I really got into. Mostly the 80s stuff, where I was introduced to that by my brother, who was older than me. And then as soon as I found, Kiss, Van Halen, David Lee Roth, then I kind of went into Dio and Sabbath and started to cry. And then as soon as Metallica popped up, it was all over. It was like, you can just take that stuff and put that in the dust collecting bin and let's go. So I'm always super jealous of Trev. He lives in the Bay Area, but never has gone and checked out Ruthie's Inn. And I'm like, how have you not gone and had a look at this iconic place where all these things happen? So I'm a kind of a music nerd when it comes to places and memories of, certain bands that just hold a special thing. So Metallica, I've always thought were awesome up until a point. But them, but probably the one that got into the faster stuff and the heavier stuff. Definitely.
So, quick question for and now Metallica's was one of your gateways into to heavier music. Up to what point did you like Metallica up to? What album was your cutting point? Because we all have a cutting point with them.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the first album which I heard would have been, I'm going to go and say Master of Puppets, right? Not when it came out though. So I would have got that later on. But I remember buying the first Metallica that I bought was the Garage Days,
That's
EP, the 598.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was super exciting, right? Because you could hear that they were doing something. So I mean, I did like Injustice for All, and when the Black Album came out, my memory of it is that when everyone loved it, and I'm gonna say that with my group of friends, right? So that's a bubble. Everyone in that circle loved it, and it was big. It sounded heavy because the production was so massive. And coming off Injustice for All, where it was very thin, dry, that album to me just was like, wow, that's and that's what, 91. So I'm thinking, Jesus, that is phenomenally huge. But then you start going, wait, like, how are they going to play that Nothing Else Matters and then go to Damage Incorporated? Like, how's that going to work? All right. So you start to join the dots.
Yeah.
We weren't thinking about selling out or, they sold out. It was just like, oh man, they've simplified Injustice for All into big riffs. That was our thought process. But looking back, I'm definitely going to say like Injustice for All is probably my point where I'm like, I thoroughly enjoyed that album. And I still do today. I think it's great.
Yeah, a lot of people, me, Bear, and Rich, that's our cutting point from Justice for All down. After that, we didn't care for the band. You said that Kiss was one of your first bands too. I fall into that too. When I was growing up, Black Sabbath and Kiss, got to see them 7 times. Kiss. Wow. Did you ever get to see them in the era when they went back to the paint when they were painting their face, or you just the glass?
No, I saw. So they came to Australia in 1980, and the next time they came back was in 92.
Wow.
No, it was 95. 95. So they came back for the Revenge tour, and that was kind of a bit of a dull point in Kiss's career. I mean, it was a great album, but they still weren't doing major things, really. They just had a good album. And there was they did a expo where they showed up, and there was only 200 fans, and it only cost $120 to meet Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Bruce Kulick, and Eric. $120, and I've got the T-shirt. He signed. I mean, Gene was kind of piggish to me, I thought, but there was a lot of people there. But I mean, I didn't get an eye contact, no thank you, hi, whatever. It was more of a next, So I'm guessing he wanted to get out of there, but that was awesome. And then the next time they came through town, it was the reunion. And I saw the two Sydney shows. And funny story that the first show that they did, the second night of the first Sydney show back in Makeup, everything went wrong. Peter screwed up the beginning of Love Gun, completely butchered it, and they had to restart it. Then Paul's lift got stuck in the air, like God knows how far above the thing. Now, the story goes, allegedly, you could hear the screams from Gene Simmons backstage at the Peter and everyone who was around. And it was one of those things where I'm like, I hope that's true, because that they couldn't get him down. The song finished and he's still on this thing, and they had to manually wind him down. And it's one of those things where, what do? Do you cheer? Do you just sit there and watch him come down? Like, it was embarrassing to watch. And I don't think that they ever forgave anyone for that. But they were good. I always liked them, man. Every time I saw them, they were good.
Well, no, me too. I can never take that away from them. They live. They worth every penny that you go see them. Regardless, you like the older stuff, the middle stuff, and the late stuff. They always gave a hell of a show. 7 times I got to see them. So, I said,
Did you ever see him in the 80s, like with the lesser albums?
I saw them in the 80s, yeah. And then I saw them later in the 90s. That's when I got to see them a whole bunch of times when they were without the makeup. Then when they went back to the makeup, I got to see them 2 more times.
Yeah.
With makeup on and stuff.
Yeah, no, we didn't get that, but because we didn't get that, I love the lean years, you know, like the Lick It Up to Asylum. And that interests me the most because considering their huge career, there's not as much kind of stuff involved in that. And when they released those Kiss DVDs, they didn't really have a lot that was incorporating that. You know what I mean? Like and that's always the thing where I'm like, oh man, I'd love to have seen Animalize live.
Yeah, that was a very good album. One album that I always said that I always ask Kiss fans. Some I get say okay, some that, what do you thought of Hot in the Shade?
Sucked. Horrible. Sucked. But at the time, they did that video clip where they started putting the makeup back on. You remember that?
Yeah.
And that was so exciting. And I don't know if that eclipsed it for me, but yeah, that had that horrible song. And I know that the YouTuber, that No Solution, loves what's that song? That Hide Your Heart. He thinks that's great. That's a horrible song. The one where Paul Stanley starts to rap is horrible.
Please.
It was just a brutal album for a Kiss fan to try and defend, you know, considering that we do it all of our discussions when we're talking to other music fans.
Yo, Lee, let me ask you then, considering, you know, since we're on the topic of that, Kiss was, I guess, one of your biggest bands, which you're not ashamed to talk about. But back in your growing days, was Kiss like, you know, like something you just kept to yourself and not let other people know about? Like, you know, some young metalheads will be like, you know, when they get into more of the heavier stuff, some of the stuff we enjoyed in the past were like kind of like our dirty little secret. Did you let people know? Yeah, I love fucking Kiss. I love Motley Crue. But meanwhile, you're putting up corpse paint and you're ready to go and destroy blood and all that other stuff. I mean, you know, I'm just.
No, I don't know, because I mean, I remember, like, I've still got the same bag today. I take it to work, and it used to be, it was one of those sacks that I guess mailmen use, but it used to have a big Kiss patch across it, and I never took that off. Okay. And so I always had it. I never thought that I'd need to be ashamed of it, but we were kind of in a very, you know, like I went to school in a small community, and I was pretty much the only metal fan that I knew.
Okay.
You know, there was people later on that got into things because they were like skateboarders, and suddenly DRI came out. They were like, oh, this is the best band ever. And so they started discovering, they didn't know any other bands but DRI. So there was those guys that popped up. But yeah, I was in a community that, it was a beautiful place. Lived on a beach, a lot of surfing and skateboarders, and music wasn't a huge thing there. It was only me and one other guy that liked it.
Wow.
And so Kiss to me were like, I didn't have a reason to be ashamed of it because no one ever gave me shit about it.
But it's funny because Kiss, because of their the way they started, a lot of people put them in that past thing. If you like Kiss, nobody really makes fun of you because remember, Kiss never started out as a glam band. It just they go by as the years go by, whatever's hot at the moment. That's what I remember. They did a disco album.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yep. I was having this discussion the other day. Whatever was in at the time, Kiss followed. They were Johnny Come Lately to everything.
Yes.
All right. The disco album, and then the Unmasked was kind of like, oh, we better do kind of a rock album, but keep it footsteps in here. And then the concept album came off. The Who put out a concept album, right?
Yeah.
Or someone told them that you better do that because that's what serious bands do, and people don't take you seriously. So they did the concept, and that sucked. And then it's like, oh shit, we better go back to metal. And then they put out a stellar album, right? Which I love. I don't, you know, some people have now argued it's not as good, but I think it's a great album. And then there's like, oh, there's glams here. We better take all the makeup off and we better slather our face and do that. And then, you know, and then I heard a podcast the other day where it was like Def Leppard was huge. So, and Bon Jovi was in that space. So they did Crazy Nights. We'd had all the keyboards and the really keyboard heavy, you know, and then they did the grunge album. Let's not forget that. You know,
Dark Secret. You're right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, if there was a trend, Kiss followed it, but they just followed it too late. You know,
they got too old. If they would have still been a little younger, they probably would have done black metal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh man.
they got their hands wet a little bit. Remember that? Which album was that, Tone? The one they did the song.
Oh, Revenge. That's the one
Revenge.
you.
Yeah,
Revenge.
that song on her. Remember when it first when we saw the video, like, yo, what is this? I said, what the hell?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, Gene Simmons is there. They look like they were just all heavy. I was like, wow, man, that was really cool. I thought they were gonna stick to that path. And
But
well,
remember, that's when death metal was reaching its peak.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
bands were getting kind of in that, they were doing the Alice in Chains, or Alice in Chains was out, so they were heavy and dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then I don't know if that followed, or the grunge album was supposed to be the Alice in Chains one, but that song, I always think that era suited Gene Simmons to the ground. You know, he'd done the 10 years of looking like a footballer in a tutu, and then he looked like a drag queen. It looks weird. Everyone else seemed to pull it off. He just looked odd. But then the Revenge era came, and then suddenly he's the evil guy with the tongue again. That was cool.
Yeah.
Damn,
it was a good era for Gene. That suited him.
Remember, he got into movies as well.
Oh yeah. What was that? The Runaway, or what was it called? Was it Runaway?
Runaway with that. He had Tom Selleck was in it.
Tom Selleck, yeah, and he did Wanted Dead or Alive, wasn't it? Wanted Dead or Alive.
That one
with
was good.
Yeah, with Rutger Hauer.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. Oh, did he? That's right. Where was that? Was that recently?
He passed away about maybe 5 years ago.
Oh well, okay. Because I always loved him in the Hitcher, man. So I know you're a movie guy, and I am a movie guy, like a horror movie freak. So I love the Hitcher, and that was came out. I've had that on VHS and religiously watched it. I think I used to just rent it over and over again from the video store. That was a brutal movie, absolutely brutal, scary as shit too.
And stuff. That's funny because that was going to be one of my last questions I wanted to ask you down the line about Australia. Was very well known for the Aussie films, the exploitation. So you got to go to the theater and see all these movies over there in Australia at the time, right?
I didn't see any, like, not that I know or can think of that they were classed as that, like Ozploitation.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have to give me a title. Oh, man. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, you had what was the other one that was big? Day of the Animals.
I never saw that one. I never saw it.
We always used to get it in America two years later. After yeah.
Which is funny because it wasn't until when Amazon first kind of popped up, we could get something that was about to show on our cinemas on DVD from Amazon, because you guys had already had it for 12 months, and suddenly we would be getting a blockbuster film. Yeah. So, but I only just found out the other day. It blew my mind, and I almost had to sell my house and move back home. I found out that you guys, and I don't know where the relationship has to mend, but you did the Mad Max 1 in an American, you dubbed it into American. Do you know about this?
Oh, you mean the voices?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard about that. I have never seen it with the dubs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
well,
I don't recall that neither. I always remember
it's on YouTube, not the whole thing, scenes of it.
Uh-huh.
And if you only know the Australian one, have a look at it. It is so bad. Like, because they have to change the words because, I guess you guys didn't understand what, skag and floozy was. So they changed it to something else that was more in your, your vocab. So, it's so bad. It is so bad. It looks like one of those old Chinese kung fu films where they had to dub it.
Voice movie?
Yeah, and the voices don't quite match up.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal. It's brutal.
It does it good. Yeah. What you call? Yeah, because I was, so you already know I'm huge. You can see
I was ready for you, my friend.
Yeah. Huge to it. Yeah, I grew up with that. Like Patrick was another big one that came from Australia. You got to see that one. That's the guy that he's in a coma, but he can move things with his mind.
I remember the front cover.
Yeah,
I can't remember the film. I actually, when you said that, I thought you were going to say Martin. Like I thought I was just thinking of the old Was that Dario Argento or was that
No, that was what you call Romero.
Romero?
George
And I remember
Romero
that
did.
scene where he's just cutting the wrists.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, it's so graphic. But yeah, no, I didn't see. I remember the cover to it, but there was an old Australian flick called Zombie Brigade, which must have been the first Australian zombie film.
Hmm.
And then there's one that you guys, I don't know if you ever got. It was only kind of recent, say in the last 10 to 15 years. It was called Undead. The
Yes.
front cover, yeah, you had that?
I have that. That's the one that the what you call the meteors come and then it hits the what you call it hits and turns everybody into to zombies
Yeah.
and the guy shooting them down in the small town in Australia and they're trying to
Yeah.
off.
Yeah. And it had it had like that guy with the 3-barrel shotgun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super cool film. And that never really got much I didn't think it got much release because no one ever talks about it. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was entertaining. It was like a Peter Jackson film, but kind of less humorous, I guess.
Yeah,
So
and stuff. Well, so it's good. You watch a lot of those of the old ones.
yeah, actually, I made a living for a while selling. I would get the grindhouse films from a place called Exploited Media here in the States, and I would export them back. And I found just this weird thing that no one was selling them. So I was making like $1,000 a week just
Wow.
importing these movies over and just selling them on eBay. And I started making more money off of eBay than what I did at my actual job. And I was like, I was losing money going to work, if that makes sense.
It was true.
Because you guys went through a boom of that. Now it's tapered down a bit, but it's now you're doing all the classics. But this was like the first time on DVD, and you just got the old VHS rip on DVD. Not all of them were good. Yeah.
It's funny because before they started with the boutique labels that now they all got the rights and they're all releasing all the movies. The way we used to get movies from Europe, all the Italian and all of that was by writing back and forth. I had a girl that I had met, her name was Valerie. She used to send me from England and from other places movies that we couldn't get here. And
Yeah.
I used to bump them too on VHS and do the same thing and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to do so we would get them, and then when the first time you see Faces of Death, right? And then someone introduces you to Traces of Death. So suddenly you've got these more than a horror film. You think it's real, right? Some of it was.
Yeah.
And then people started sending me Japanese car crash films and ambulance footage and all these crazy autopsy videos. Then this was the pinnacle of how depraved you can get. Germany. Germany was, you can get the adult industry. Well, then the adult industry went into graphic horror, and you can imagine what that's going to look like, right?
Yeah.
And I started getting all of these, and I was selling them like just copies on eBay, which because they weren't named like so and so's big dong. It wasn't called that. It was called something kind of gritty. So it sounded like a horror film, and the front cover was absolutely disgusting, but it didn't have any nudity in it. Not until you turned it around. You just don't show the back cover. So I was just photocopying the covers, slapping them in, and I was selling for $50 a pop, and I could not make enough of them. And they were, I don't know if you can still get them, but they were just like, the R word and revenge, and that was exactly what that movie was.
Yeah, now eBay is very tight on what there is American movies that you can't even put on that they right away take off. They take off the stuff. Yeah, they're real into that stuff. But what you call just quick thing going back to the metal, right? I just was curious how was the scene growing up when you were in the metal scene? You said it was only you and one other, but now how is the scene in Australia? Because now you have bands.
Now I really don't know because all of the bands that I was into have now all gone their ways. Like Sadistic Execution, no longer a thing. The stuff that we used to kind of like, which was the Warhead Records, they had a whole stable of bands. All that stuff was great. So that was my scene. was the 90s. And when the 2000s came, I had a family. I was working kind of government jobs, and I didn't keep up with a lot of it. So it kind of fell by the wayside a bit. I was caught in my stuff. I only really listened to the stuff that I liked. I didn't really explore outside. I didn't go to any shows anymore because the government job was just, brutal. So it wasn't and then I moved back over here and I find these bands that I love that only lived like an hour down the road, which had been going for 25 years.
Wow.
It's amazing. But when you guys have this scene, well, we had the same scene back there, but they never cross-pollinated, you know what I mean? Like, you guys didn't really know about a lot of ours, and I had obviously zero idea of a lot of the underground here, because that would never make it over to Australia. Who's sending that over? So
yeah, like
Australia very, very much got.
Yeah, like bands like we were listening to bands like Destroyer 666 was probably the biggest band coming out of Australia at the time that we were seeing. Yeah, and stuff. Now
did you ever get Mortal Sin?
Yeah, Mortal Sin was another one.
Right.
Yeah, and then for the new ones, there's one called Werewolf.
I was going to say that. Yeah, it's a really good band. They're really.
Yeah, I've heard them.
Do you know them?
You heard it? Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't got anything. I have heard them. I've seen a few of their interviews. They did one on the Necrosphere, and they were talking about they're going to release an album every year.
Yeah,
yeah. I think actually you guys brought that up too, and that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, to me, there was bands that I was kind of more invested in. There was Damaged, which if I sent that to Francisco to say you like this stuff, you should check it out. I didn't hear back, but the drummer in that was, like, at the time, they said that he was the fastest drummer in the world. He went on to Sadistic Execution, and I think he went overseas to play over there with them. And then he had a band called Fracture, and I had the tape when they came out, and probably left it in Sydney, but they were like necroticism era Carcass.
Wow.
And I had to bootleg it for myself. I've got it upstairs, but yeah, it is on YouTube. It's called Avulsion. Fracture's the name of the band. Avulsion is the name of the demo. But they are really cool, very, very cool, and they sound fresh today because of, I guess, the way metal works. It's gone backwards,
Yeah, and stuff.
Now, Lee, considering that Australia, United States. What was the thing with you as far as your journey coming over here? Like, was it for an opportunity, or you just got tired of things back home, or are you going back and forth? What's going on there?
Yeah, I've been coming backwards and forwards since, I would say, 2014.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mostly for pleasure, nothing more, just for holidays and, all the touristy stuff. And then come 2017, 18, I went through a crazy divorce, right? So I lose, my family goes this way. We're all fun and games. And then suddenly one day, I show up to bring the kids home. The kids aren't there from school, and I like, where's the kids? So I figured, someone's picked them up. So I drive home, and the police are waiting for me at the door, and they've changed all the locks, and I'm not allowed in the house. So I find a place, and then I went through the whole thing that every guy that's gone through a divorce goes through, that feel bad for myself and losing all your money. And then I figured that I was talking one day on the internet to some random person on the internet, which turned out to be my now wife. But I came over to Vegas just to kind of get my head cleared and just party as much as I could, because I was like, I need a week. So I came over, and then she's like, well, I'm going to be over your side, the week after. I said, I'm going to be going home. I said, let me extend the trip. So I extended the trip a week, spent a time in LA. And then she's like, well, you should come to the East Coast. You've never been, right? I'm like, no. So the next day I'm over there, and then she comes back with me to Australia. And then we made the decision in 2019 to come over, because I'd never seen snow. So it was like, we're going to fly over 2019 to see snow. Well, it never snowed. I guess what did happen only a few months after that.
Yeah, there you
the
go.
world shuts down. They cancelled our flights from Philly to LA. They shut the bridge between Jersey and Philly. We couldn't get back, and we couldn't get to LA to get back. And then they said, well, we'll fly you back, but your, Mrs. doesn't have permission to come in because her visa hadn't come through. So they're like, what am I supposed to do with this? So I applied to stay here. So it was by total, whatever the universe threw at us at that point, we just made the choice on the spot, pretty much, that we're going to stay. So it was easier than most to get caught in things because, like, she's from here. She's born and bred in Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
So she already had family here, and, we had a place to stay. So we weren't out on the streets. But, yeah, we came in for a holiday and stayed for the end of the world, I guess you could say.
Wow.
The end of the world.
You lived it in real life, man. You had your own Walking Dead episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what, man? Like, I love this country. It's like, as much as everyone says it's changed, and I have seen it change since 2014, the people are still the same. Like, I very rarely meet a person who's a complete, dickhead or just wants to be they're very, there's something very similar to Australians, but very different as well. So I'm kind of used to the East Coast. The West Coast was bit iffy for me, but definitely the East Coast is where I'm at. But I love the chaos here. I love the shit can just go wrong. We have apparently UFOs in the sky today. Like that, and they're only here. You can only catch that shit on the East Coast of the USA, like every Hollywood film, right? Like, you can't make it up. This is where you come for the best entertainment in the world.
Yeah, look, you come to New York, you get CEOs getting killed. You go to Jersey, you get UFOs. What else are you gonna get?
Yeah. Well,
but if
you live,
they would have said this to you, yeah,
you live with.
Oh, you go, Tone.
You get the earthquakes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the West Coast,
and potentially a tsunami. So
yeah.
I don't necessarily want that, but I would never go back. People are saying, you want to go back? I'm like, there's nothing for me back there. There's nothing for me back there. You know what I mean? If I went back now, it would almost feel like I'm, going backwards in life because of what I've gotten used to here. So, when you guys say it's the best country in the world, let me tell you, you can be stuck in a hell of a lot worse countries than ones that, give you guns and crazy laws about whatever. But, I fell in love with the place, way back, and then I'm glad as hell I'm here.
That's good.
Good. So you're planning to stay now for good, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm here till the end, man. I'm here till the end. Though I do have an escape route if I do get sick because of my my Australian visa, which never expires. I can go to New Zealand if they decide they're gonna start aliens attacking. No one's attacking New Zealand because no one cares about it, but beautiful place. But if I've just got to get the 24 hours home, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
that's the only problem I've got at the moment.
Yeah, Lee. Quick question: now that you
always an escape route, mate. You gotta have a plan.
Now that you come out with the EP and you're planning to release more on Shred Beer's label. Are you planning to tour? You got any band members you thinking about? Because I know it's only you. You're just one person. You have no thought. What's your thoughts on that?
I haven't thought about it. I mean, look, I haven't got anything against playing live. I know that with Mordant proved that if you need someone, there's a bunch of musos that can step in and play. And it's not like my songs would be hard to learn. So definitely I could do it if I had enough time to figure it out. But, there's no plans on it. I'm kind of happy sitting in my basement here and recording and I record a lot. Every day I record or mix or do something. So I'm kind of head down, thumbs up into this part of it. And, if I ever get a Taylor Swift #1, then who knows where that'll go. But I'm not counting on it. You know,
You'll have musicians
we'll see
banging
how that
on your
works out.
door. You have musicians banging on your door, wanting to get in there.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And I mean, like the Fomorian thing has added a new element to it. Like it's because we've already like I was always in awe of Revik and the way that he would be able to pick a band out and talk about them and expose something and he did that to me and I was always when I was talking to Shred I was like let's just do that even if we never sell one album, like let's find some bands that don't get enough playtime, yeah, and let's pump them up and let's see if we can get some people to hear them. So that was the plan going forward with it, because no one really had the money to. You really can't organize. What do they say? You can't organize a piss up in a brewery with four guys who all have four separate lives and they all live in four different parts of the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea was like, well, if we can't somehow agree on one thing, let's just get bands that we like and start featuring these bands. So I'm very proud to say that, Matt from Maddox Deep Shadows, like he just sent all the artwork through. He's got a project that he's doing, which is it's funny as shit as far as how it's been recorded, but it's serious. Like music, you're gonna look at it and you'll go, I know exactly what that is because that's what he listens to. So you'll get it. But he only records through Snapchat and sends it to me in a video file, which is shockingly bad. But we have to make something with that. So he's tanked. He's absolutely four sheets to the wind. So I've said to him, if I'm going to do this, then I've got to be just as hammered. So that's how we do it. He gets drunk and records, sends it over. I get drunk and play drums, and it sounds exactly how you would think it's going to sound. So that'll be out. We're planning for January, end of January, I think. So that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah.
But speaking of Matt, he's a great dude, man. I've been following him. We've been back and forth. One day I would like to get him on, so he could talk with us too.
Yeah.
But as far as him being a YouTuber out there, are there any other YouTubers and as far as out in Australia that you could recommend besides my man Matt and some other guys?
There is depending on what you're looking for. So what Matt does is he shows his albums, but he talks about whatever he wants to talk about. Where I find like there is explosive action, but what I find with explosive action, like he does review things, but pretty much he's showing it. I got this. This is what's in it. This is where I bought it. Next one. This is it. This is what I got it. But that type, like the vinyl community, just loves seeing albums, backside of albums, what the vinyl looks like. So he's catering to an audience which he really is, into, right?
Mm.
Where Matt's different. Matt will talk about, things that he thinks he knows, how this music goes. He'll play some tunes off it and then drink some. So Matt's kind of fun to watch, where I don't necessarily like just someone going, here's my album. This is the back of the album. Next album. It feels very, cold to me, just showing album. But there's a whole thing for it. So, but he is interesting that he picks up some bizarre things that, you kind of go, oh, wow, there's something new. But no, not Necrosphere, I think is Australian. Into the Necrosphere, which is more of a podcast, but they do a video like a Joe Rogan-y thing. And they do strictly like extreme metal. So that's an interesting, because he gets some really interesting guests.
Oh, okay.
Going back to because I know the guy, Explosive Action.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna laugh. Before he started doing the metal thing, he would just do movies.
That's right. He has all those DVDs back.
Yeah, he would just do monthly things of action movie. He would find like the rarest shit that even me had never even heard of and stuff. And then he did one or two black metal thing. I didn't even know he was into metal. And then I wrote to him. I was like, wow, this is good. And next thing you know, now the metal stuff is doing better than his actual movies.
Yeah. I mean, he really, I mean, he contacted me the other day and was like, hey, Australian. So, I had a quick chat to him. But yeah, I mean, I enjoy looking at things like that. But the movie thing, we all of our movies were like cut and rated and banned. You know what I mean? We didn't get the stuff that you got, so we didn't get a lot of really cool stuff. You know, so I guess now things might be loosened, but you know, I just enjoy listening to people give an opinion on a piece of music that they like or dislike. You know what I mean?
Wait,
That's really it.
But wait, there was when we talk about movies, don't forget you guys got something that we never got. You guys got to see the Punisher Dolph Lundgren in the theaters in Australia. We didn't get that.
You got the uncut version. We did get to see it in the theater. We got the cut version of it.
Yeah, and then they went. It only showed in Australia. That was the only country that showed that original version of Dolph Lundgren's The Punisher. And then we ended up getting the all chopped up meat cut version. But eventually now they actually did release the uncut, right, Tone? They released.
Yeah, I had to wind up getting a Germany copy to see it. But you're gonna laugh. Not only the only two places they showed it, it was Australia uncut, and you're gonna laugh, Puerto Rico.
Oh, that's right.
Puerto Rico got to see it uncut, and my cousin was at the time visiting family, and he got to see it in the movie theater. He's telling me, "Oh, you got to go see it, all this chopping heads." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" it on the screen.
Well, there's a guy that I used to. He was a great dude. He was a producer. No, what a producer. He was a writer. He was a writer, and he did a movie called Splinter, an Australian movie called Splinter.
I see that.
And really cool dude. Anyway, you have? Yeah. So his name's Tone as well. So big Tone over there. He's a really cool dude. And he was saying, I'm pretty sure he told me the story that Dolph Lundgren, when he was filming that, he was, because you know, he was allegedly, as the story goes, he was a bouncer for clubs in Sydney before he went to movies. Now, if that's true or not, I've always been told that he was a bouncer in the King's Cross club scene before he got famous. And the story goes was that they said that this guy was dumb as rocks, and that he would break props, right, by like doing crazy stuff with them. So they ended up giving him plastic guns and rubber foam guns so he wouldn't be breaking their stuff. So, you know, when he's jumping out of things, and apparently he'd break those as well. So they said, we just can't work with this guy. He's just really hard to work with. So I remember hearing that story about that movie.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the film. I just remember it was a darker version of it, if I remember correct.
Wow. Yeah, you know what's another movie from Australia that was big, but we got to see it a year later, was Razorback.
Oh yeah.
But the big four.
Yeah.
That was a big one in the 80s. I remember going to the theater and seeing it. I was like, wow, this is great and stuff. Yeah. Now they did a new one called Boar that I don't know if you've seen from Australia. It has that actor that he's really built. He came out on what the hell was that fucking Troy. He was the beginning guy that
that real big guy put the sword into his. Oh, dude, that guy is massive, right?
Yeah, that dude is massive.
If I was if I was Achilles, I would have turned around and run the other way. That guy's huge. I'm not playing with that. But there was another movie that came from Australia right off the back of the Mad Max things. It was called Running on Empty. And that was like a Maxploitation ripoff.
I think I heard of that movie, yeah.
Yeah, the cover looked awesome. It looked like Mad Max, but kind of toned down a bit. It had that where he's behind the wheel and you just see his fists in the face and the whole thing. That was one of those films I remember from then. And yeah, there was a ton of that stuff that kind of came through. But I was actually in a zombie film back home only recently. I think you can still watch it on is it Hulu? I think it was on. It's called Little Monsters, right? So it sounds kind of fruity, but it had the guy from remember that movie Pixels with Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
Yes.
And he had that fat friend, and the friend was like, you know, I'm eating a lot more protein and a lot more carbs or something, whatever his line was. It's quite funny. Well, he was the star of that film, and the things are set in Australia, and I was one of the zombies. But the problem was that they had these two super zombies, you know, which silly, but it was funny. It had a good sense of humor. It was kind of crude humor, and there was kids around, so it was kind of interesting. But I was bigger than the super zombie, so they would put me out of picture everywhere. And then I had a great scene where a kid was in the back of us, like a hayride, and we were chasing them, as zombies do. And we grabbed the child and munched down on the kid. And it was like, I'm right here. I got the kid in my mouth, like just tearing this kid out. Not in the film. We get invited to the premiere. I'm so excited to see my face just like bloody. I've got photos. I've got photos of just like all covered. And the scene was completely taken out. And I'm like, where's this scene? Like, I remember it. So we were here, and then suddenly there's no kid on the floor. There's no one dying. And the next thing you know, I'm like, I'm going to go take a piss. My scene's gone. What else is there? I leave the theater. The wife's sitting there. She goes, you just missed it. You were on the screen. And I'm like, I blink for a second, and I'm gone. But I'm in the credits. I guess I get a credit on something somewhere along the line. But I'm in the credits of that. But that's so my claim to fame. Little Monsters, yeah, it's on Hulu. I'm pretty sure it's got the girl that was in. I think she's in one of the Star Wars movies now, but she was in that 12 Years a Slave. But they must have remade that or something. She got a funny name. I can't pronounce it, but she was fun, and it was actually quite a funny movie as far, but it wasn't a zombie film that zombie fans will love. It was just it had zombies in it.
Okay.
Another movie from Australia that was big was Wolf Creek.
Oh yes, that's based on true story.
Yeah, that's what they say. I remember me and my cousin saw it when they premiered it here in New York. That was crazy, that movie.
Oh, and yeah.
I love the sequel.
The sequel with the kangaroos just being smacked down by the trucks.
Smashing and that guy's like 70 years old, they say, right? The guy
who played
the serial killer.
Probably he was just, I think he was just in sitcoms, and then the next thing you know, he's playing this character, which just everything again. He was typecast as that character. You couldn't get away from it, but he did it so well. He was so likable until he was killing these kids, right?
Yeah,
but he played that character beautifully.
I say too.
Yeah, that first one for sure. The second one was more slapsticky. It was a bit more funnier, a bit more entertainment value. But that first one was dark as hell.
Dark as hell when he first runs into them in the outbacks, and he starts talking to them, and then he takes them to that cave and starts torturing them.
Yeah. It was like Hostel type of torture too, and like Hostel mixed with Texas Chainsaw. It had that same type of element. But you would jump in a truck with that guy. He sounded like a pretty cool dude, right? He was friendly.
Yeah, he was.
Next thing you know, you're being skinned.
He skinned it. It was a good flick.
That's right, man. I'm gonna eat you, smile.
Yeah. It was based on a killer called Peter Falcone, if I'm not mistaken, and they never convicted him. They did catch him, but they never convicted him of anything.
That's when I read up on it, and then the funny thing is that they say, most of the Australia has the most serial killers in the world. I was reading
really?
That. Yeah, they were saying that thing. I was like, wow. They were saying Australia and in the United States. They
That's
said
the first for me.
Yeah, the first series, Australia was one, and then the other the state here was Alaska for us. They said,
okay.
Also, yeah. And it's funny because there's always missing people. The most missing people in the United States is always from Alaska.
Guess it makes sense because they're so remote. Like there's like really remote places in both, and I guess you could make the argument here, but we had a lot of backpackers, like travelers from overseas that would come in and make the trip across the country. And unlike here, where there's cities in between, there's no cities between Sydney and, say, Western Australia, like Perth. There is Ayers Rock, but I would say it's more of a touristy destination type of, look, there's a rock and then keep on going. But there's nothing in between. It's 4 days of driving and not seeing anything except small towns. Yeah, it's all desert, so it makes sense. And I mean, Alaska, you would probably argue, well, there's bears, right? Big polar bears or something. Do they have polar bears?
The mooses are the big thing in
Bears?
Alaska.
Yeah, moose.
The mooses.
I don't think it's polar bears. I think it's regular bears.
Okay.
Regular bears.
Yeah, but the
They got
mooses.
big.
But I heard the mooses be getting crazy out there in Alaska. They be killing people. The mooses.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to doubt that. I mean, they're huge, like a horse, right, with horns.
That's true.
Yeah, man. Look, who? Put this. Who would win in a three-way fight? A built kangaroo, the Alaskan moose, or New York City rat? Go.
Oof. Well,
I mean,
I hear your rats are big.
Yo, you see, they're big, man.
They big.
I've never been to New York. This is the thing that kills me. I've been to LA. I've driven through LA, but New York always eludes me because it kind of scares me a little as far as being caught and in the city and not being able to get home because of the traffic or something. And so everyone's there always said to me, if you go to New York City, you have to take a bus or take a train. Do not drive.
I mean, the only other thing would be is if you well, this would be, for you. This would be easy for you. It would be if you could travel up North New York, like maybe up our area in the Bronx, or go up in Westchester County. If you know anybody, you could park up there and then travel into the city through bus, and then because it's easier actually to travel through Jersey north than it is through the city part.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
I didn't think you could do that. I thought it was like an island, like an arm that juts out of it.
You could take that's Manhattan. So if you take the Palisades Parkway leads you up to Westchester County.
Yeah.
And you can cut across through there, and it's actually easy traveling through there. Or when you take the George Washington Bridge, just go to the Bronx, but go north. Don't go straight. That's where still a lot of traffic. Anywhere north is better than south. That south is very populated. That's where it's always populated, south.
All right. Well, I mean, I'd love to see Queens because Kiss, I've got the address apparently of where their loft was, so I want to go see that. And obviously the New York hardcore scene. Apparently, is it Joe? Is it Joe? What's the guitar player Agnostic Front? Stigma. Is it Joey?
Oh yeah, Stigma.
Oh yeah.
He's in a tattoo shop there. I would love to just to go there and I'd pay for a tattoo I didn't want just so I could hopefully sit there and have him a captive audience for half an hour or whatever.
Yeah, he's cool. He's very approachable. You go over there, you'll have a whole conversation with him. And he's very cool,
very down to earth guy.
Yeah, and I mean, I've seen so many documentaries with him talking, and I would just love to have him for like a half an hour just to hear stories. So I really enjoy soaking up, some of those old stories, and that'd be cool. And they're so close, like closer than it's ever been in my life. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh no, just keep going this way. I don't want to be stuck. But
But Lee, where in Jersey? Well, I'm not telling us exactly, but how far your distance is from the city to New York? I mean, in Jersey, how far are you from?
Well, I guess when we drove up to Newark, which I don't know how close that is to you, but that was
about 30 minutes away from me on going over the George Washington.
Right, I believe that was. I'm going to say an hour and a half, hour and 45 to Newark. And I'm in South Jersey. I'm only just like 25 minutes from Philly. Just over the bridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I know where you're at. Yeah.
But things get way more exciting up there, man. Crazy exciting where you get to see Sopranos, the Bada Bing. And we went and sat in the restaurant where Tony Soprano was killed. And that blows my mind every time I get to see one of those places.
Yeah.
To you guys, you're just like, whatever, it's Tony Soprano.
I would love to go check that out. I heard they got I know Revic showed it, the little booth that says reserved for Tony Soprano.
Yeah. He went to that diner and stuff.
Yeah.
But try to see. We could hook up to you could come see a show, but you come earlier and we could hit you off with all those places. I would love to have you come up, man, to have some more.
Man, I would love to have someone just say, okay, this is what happened here, and this is what happened here, and that type of stuff is my, that's my blood, it's my life's blood to see and hear that stuff.
Well, us three, me, a Bear, and my cousin, if you come up, we'll show you everything that you need, that you want to see. Yes.
Can I tell someone to forget about it? Because I love doing that too. It only kicks in when I'm driving up there. Someone honks at me, and I forget about it. Like, I love it. It's awesome.
No, I think it more graduates to "fuck you." You know.
Definitely.
Yeah, I get that.
But you saw the video where when Morton Reds came to play up in New York. I was like 5 minutes late before he did it. He went around running around with the mask on, and nobody. I told him, I said nobody was gonna care. He said, "Yo, I ran up and down the block, and nobody looked at me like I got scared." I said, "Nah, that's normal in New York."
Yeah, you're not anyone special here. You know, we got way more crazy people.
You got.
Yeah, it just fascinates me.
Yeah, you got guys over there showing their asses in the middle of the street. They're gonna worry about a guy walking around in a mask. I mean, come on. Oh man! And
that's a Tuesday.
Speaking of Revik, I know I saw that video you made, the one after the show they had in Jersey that you went to see it, and you made mention about your wife, about how I was saying how nice he is and so on. I had the same experience with my wife where she met him. It's like, oh God, he's such a nice guy, and I said, damn, me and Lee are gonna have to set up some task force or something.
No, I mean, look, as soon as he got home, I rung him up and I said, listen, never come back. Never come back. All right, otherwise this deal's off. So and it sucked because first off, he's not like, he's a smart guy. He's put together. Like, I just wanted him to be ugly. That's all I wanted. I just wanted something bad, like something to be off, whether he had like a dingy arm or like a one leg smaller than the other, like just anything. But no, the guy's like the perfect specimen of human being standing there, and I'm like, fuck you, Revik.
Yeah. My wife saying, oh my God, he's so nice. So like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And my wife was talking to him like it was, a friend she'd known forever, and he's a very reserved guy, like when we were speaking to him, but he's oh man, he makes me sick. Makes me sick that he's got all this stuff going on. And funny because it took me aback because I couldn't, like, I'm looking around the crowd going, I'm going to see him, but I wanted to ask him so many things, just like, and then when I'm there, I'm like, he's very disarming as far as when he talks to you, straight in the eye. He's looking you straight in the eye, and he's asking questions and I'm like, I'm forgetting everything. I almost felt like a 16-year-old girl who had met, Scott Baio or something.
He was about to be a victim in his rape shed.
Hold my beer, honey.
Yeah. But the show that you saw him in Jersey how was the crowd out there?
Didn't seem as crazy as your crowds up in New York. I kind of expected that though, but yeah, I mean, it was a little. I mean, as far as what I saw in that video, more subdued. But it's just a shame because he said the sound was on and off in New York, and I said, dude, the sound in Jersey was phenomenal. It was like a CD player was going in the background. It was so good, And if he ever does anything with that stuff, which the live stuff, I mean, you would have heard some of the stuff, but like it's just so clear, so gorgeously clear. It's better than any like when you hear live shows and they sell them as official releases. This sounds like he did it in his home studio. You would almost question the fact, but oh my God, it's so good. Because I was kind of like upset that I didn't know that you guys like Go to Mendes wasn't playing. Like I didn't know that, so I was there, and then I find out this other band's playing. Like, oh, I got to go tomorrow night, and I was so sorry I didn't make the trip because Lament from Jersey Devil was like, you should have come. There was like many crazy things.
Yeah, it was a fun show. I mean, even though we had our difficulties with the soundboard and whatever, and but the music was playing well. So from the angles that people had, you could hear the music well. People were enjoying it. Everybody was having a good time. There was a fight, liquor. It was great. It was great. And
the video sounded good. Like I know you said the sound was off, but like you saw the videos. Did you think that it sounded better from the video perspective than what you could hear on stage?
Yeah, I would have to say that. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I mean, the only, like I said, the only thing was with the vocal part of it. I didn't, I was there struggling trying to sing, and but the music did sound good from that side where I was like, oh, okay, at least the guy sounded good. I was happy about that,
Yeah.
Sounded real good and stuff. But the thing was that at least your place had a real stage where he was playing at. Ours, he was on a flat down. It was like a basement. Let's put it that.
Yeah,
literally.
But I think you need to see him in a space like that. To me, that is that band. Like, you need a tight space,
yes,
low roof, and the crowd just, you want the fight. I mean, you don't want the fight, but you kind of do want some chaos, and you want the crowds like that. And I think, if anything, actually, I'm surprised you didn't film the whole thing. I was really surprised, being that he kind of thinks all this thing ahead. I was like, oh man, you didn't. Like, I would have filmed the whole thing for him if I knew he wasn't doing it. But it's that I think is exactly where you need to see Revok. Mordant Red is in that place, And I love the bass player just grunting everything. That is I'm like, that is the coolest. That is the coolest thing ever. Why no one else has done that? That's a whole character.
That guy. They were great. That night was good. That was one of my favorite shows of the year when I went there to that one. Yeah.
I wish I had the energy of what you had, But we had, like, I don't know. I mean, I tried to see what was on that video, but in the club that he played, which is a beautiful club, there's almost like a tree in the middle of the floor. Like, it's a big pillar. I mean, to me, it looked like a tree. But it's a big pillar in the floor.
Yeah, right where we were performing at. I kept holding on to that pillar sometimes too. When I was, I know exactly what he's talking about. Yeah.
Oh, he held on to it too.
No, in the Jersey show.
Oh, the Jersey
show. Yeah. There's a in the middle of the stage. There's a pillar that looks like a tree because it's got like a table around it, and it's cool to put your drink on. But as far as if you were looking for interaction, that thing definitely sticks a, it's the old what they say, the whatever it is, it's the spanner in the works, because you couldn't do what you guys did in New York with that big thing in the way. You'd just be smacking into the pillar. You'd be deaf. Your heads would go into things. So that type of thing kills it. But unfortunately, the sound was brilliant. And then you've got the energy on your side, but you said the sound was lesser. So you can't win them all with live venues, right?
It's fine. I mean, it's not. Look, I was glad we had a good time, and I think that was more of it. Got to enjoy those bands, got to hang out with Revok and the guys. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Got to drink the Jack Daniels.
Yeah, that was crazy. Just swilling that stuff, man. I love Jack, but I'm not doing it in the sense that you guys just like you did some Nikki Sixon, all right? Just like bang and that. How did you feel the next day?
Oh no, but remember, this wasn't regular Jack.
Oh,
I in a special. This is real quick. The story goes that when I became friends with him, we were right back and forth. I found out that he liked the whiskey. So I told him about that. I'm a big whiskey drinker. So I have a lot of different whiskeys. So I told him I had a special Jack that I had gotten that was a rye Jack. And he was like, oh, I would like to try it. So I told him, when you come to New York, this bottle is for you. Took a year, but I kept my word. I kept the bottle for him. So when I first met him at the show, we were talking. I said, I got a surprise for you. He walked with me back to the car. And when I gave him, he said, oh, shit, you did bring the Jack. I said, forget it. When he opened it, that started the whole party that night. Everybody and stuff.
It was great.
And that was before he played, yeah?
Yeah.
We started there. Before that's why they do it.
Yeah,
that show became a legendary show.
That part that me coming to take it, that's literally when I just finished playing.
Yeah.
Tone goes, I was over there talking to my wife. We just finished playing, and he tells my wife, I'm gonna bring him back, and just took me over there to the back, and then that's where you see me over there. I'm all sweating and everything, and man, that was a lot of fun.
Just sculling that. Yeah, you guys, that was a man-sized drink.
Yeah.
It was a great time and stuff. But what you call real quick, I wanted to ask you, besides this, I always like asking everybody that comes on, besides metal, what other music do you listen to?
Okay, so my tastes aren't very large. Okay, now I got stuck. I don't know whether I stunted my growth somewhere in the 90s, but I listen to the same bands, I guess, in a core now as what I did when I was back then. So I guess if I had to say I'm interested in something else, I do like some soundtrack music, some old, but I like it not for the reasons that I like it, that it's sad. That's a great song. I like it because of the cheese of it. So any old horror movies, like the old Italian stuff, like
I love that.
Goblin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now that is top tier stuff. All
Yeah.
right. Borders on the proggy stuff that I'm not a fan of, but I love some of those old 80s Italian horror film soundtracks. I can listen to those like I listen to, anything else.
Yeah.
But I couldn't tell you. Sorry?
Giallo, the Italian Giallos have always the best soundtracks.
Yeah. See, we say Gallio, so you guys go say Jello.
I think I say it wrong too. I think they say, I call it Giallo. They call it, I forgot how they say it because the word means in Italian yellow.
Does it?
Yes.
Okay.
The whole story behind it is that they used to do the magazines first that were mystery magazines, and they were always printed with the cover, a yellow cover. So when they were making the movies, the Italian movies, they were mystery horror, so they started calling them Giallos.
But see that when they did you ever see there was a movie called I want to say Gallio because it was called Gallio in Venice. Like that makes no sense. Like yellow in Venice. See what I mean? Like I always thought it meant thriller or something like that, like thriller. Like that was the genre.
Mm.
It means the color yellow for them. And the magazines were always yellow. They were always those Pope magazines thing. They were yellow magazines, yeah.
So
but
50
that
years
movie you're talking about, Giallo in Venice, that's not the real name of that movie.
No, it's not. What's it called? Like Thriller in Venice or something, wasn't it? Or...
I forgot what it was called, but it has a different. Because all those movies when they were coming here to America, like we didn't even know that Mad Max, the sequel, was because over there in Australia, I think they released it as Mad Max 2.
Yes.
Here in America, they released it as the Road Warriors.
Road Warrior, yeah.
So when we're going there, we're like, wait a minute, this is Mad Max and stuff. We thought of it as it was his own movie, entirely different movie and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
That's crazy that happens.
Yeah,
that they change titles on it.
Because back then in the days, in the 80s, what they used to do was movies weren't released nationwide. It was released regionally. The East Coast would see it first before it reached the West Coast. So what producers would do, if the movie wasn't a hit in the East Coast,
oh my God, they changed the name of it.
Yeah, and cut a new trailer. And then when they release it at the West Coast, to see people if they'll catch on to it and they'll go see it in the theater. That's why a lot of these movies had 2-3 different names.
Bait switch. All right, bait and switch. Yeah. You thought you're going to see a new movie, and you weren't. You're seeing an old dud.
Yeah, Roger. It was the king of that.
Crazy, because you remember they used to do do you remember there was Dawn of the Dead, right? And that was zombie in other parts of the world. I don't know if it was Dawn of the Dead here or zombie. And
it was Dawn of the Dead here, but in the rest of the world was Zombie 2.
Right. Well, in Australia, it was Zombie Flesh Eaters.
Yes.
Okay? So you got Zombie 2. Now, the Zombie 2 that we got, which I got, which must have been what Europe did, was Zombie 3. Remember Zombie 3 ended up being like the Lucio Fulci? Zombie 2 was the Lucio Fulci version. All right. And then Zombie 3 was Lucio Fulci too?
Yes. But
really poor version.
I forgot what Zombie 3 was called. But you see, this is the one you're talking in Australia, called Zombie Flesh Eater.
Yes.
This copy I winded up getting from Arrow, because they're a distributor from England, and they used to distribute out into Australia as well. but we got it as just zombie here in America.
Yeah, that's right. Because I remember like Zombie 2 or Zombie Flesh Eaters was the Lucio. Zombie 3, I bet it was called that after it failed at something else. It couldn't have been made as Zombie 3 or as a direct sequel. Like it blows my mind that was.
After the zombie thing, they just started making them. They were all entirely different stories. They were not together. They just put the what you call the number on it because they knew it would sell.
Right.
People were
there was Zombie 4. Do you remember what they used to release Zombie 4? Do you remember that one?
4, it was the one with the birds, was it?
No, that was 5.
5, yes.
Yeah, Zombie Birds. It was really bizarre. I thought I got suckered into buying it. It was like there was no zombies in this thing. It was silly.
And that's when he got sick. And Matache, with I forgot the name of the other director. He's the one that finished that movie. 5. Yeah.
Right. I thought it was
different.
Yeah, I thought it was 3, but no, zombie films for me. I remember 3 was really it sucked. It was bad, but at least it had zombies in it. Zombie 4 back home was called After Death.
Yes, that was what it was called.
And that was good, man. That was kind of like demons, right?
Yeah,
zombies, but they were like demons. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't as cheesy as the other ones.
No,
I was finished. Just to say that I love that movie.
Yeah, the same thing with Demons. When Demons 1 and 2 came out, they continue other people because of like the church. I don't know if you ever seen The Church.
Yeah, that's right.
They released it as Demons 3 around the here in the United States. They released it as The Church, but in the rest of the world, they released it as Demons 3.
Yeah, and then there was the Ogre, right? Was that another Demons?
Yeah, that was garbage. That was, and it got the name 3. That one caught me out there. I got it somewhere around the house.
I got 2 questions. I'd be interested to hear your perspective, being that you're a horror guy. Okay, one's a quick one. I'll keep that for the end. But if you can explain this to me, you have solved a lifelong issue or like a mystery. The end of City of the Living Dead.
Yes.
Okay? This is what happens, right? And you know that. They see the kid running towards them.
Mm-hmm.
They smile. They come towards the kid. Suddenly their faces sour. The kid looks like he's running because he's I'm going to give you a hug. It stops. The screen cracks. You hear a scream. Boom. Black. What happened? Did they not save? Did they not close the gates to hell? Did they come out victorious? Is it supposed to be a no one knows? Because I've never been able to find anyone that explains that to me.
To me, to say down the truth, that one was the Beyond, City of the Dead, of the Living Dead, and then came Cemetery. Cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
See, I gotta watch the ending again to get.
Yeah,
back.
It's so bizarre. It makes no sense. Right?
I guess this is the thing. They're having these conversations for decades and stuff, still wondering. Yeah. and you know what will end up happening? They'll end up taking something good like that and trying to reboot it or something just so you can have your ending.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming to every other movie. It's definitely coming. And I guess just because it's just kind of come out, 2 things. 28 years later, the trailer looks unreal.
Yeah, it looks good.
But we could just be seeing the best parts of it, which is always normally the case. Return of the Living Dead, 2025.
What? They said that.
Yeah, you saw. I
watched the trailer.
You didn't see the trailer? You didn't see the trailer?
No.
I sent it. It shows the zombie. What was the zombie?
Man.
Yeah, he's there dragging a Christmas tree.
Yeah,
he's dragging a Christmas
tree. Now I don't like when they remake the movies. It's like the 10-15% that when they remake movies is good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very few that give it somewhat of a that you could appreciate it to a degree, but you're still gonna have that thing where the original's still gonna outdo it regardless.
Yeah. But the question with that, and it's like music, I've always said this because I brought this up with the Morden album. It's been brought out in 2024, all right? Now, that album, you could argue is the greatest album you've ever heard, but it's never going to be as good as the album that you heard when you're 16, regardless of anything. And I think it's not necessarily, this is just an opinion, not necessarily because it's better. The old album's better. It's just because it holds a nostalgic value which somehow overrides everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And not many people can say, I really enjoyed the Dawn of the Dead remake. Really liked it. Everyone else who was a purist hated it.
Yeah, I thought it was a good remake.
You can't go to a Dawn of the Dead page anywhere and say it. It's almost blasphemy, right? But how much of it is nostalgia? Just because nostalgia trumps everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's
why I try to keep it that I like something, I'm going to say I like it. I really enjoyed it. Whether it's the same, better, I think it was more action-packed. I thought the pacing was great on it. You know, and I will look at albums today and go, yeah, that's a great album. But I can never say, well, that's better than the first album that I heard of you, because it's like I've sat with that for so long, and it's when I was younger and more into something, it's, you know, I digress.
But it's like when growing up, right? It's like drugs. I'll use that as an example. When you get the first fix, you can never ever catch that again. Like I watch a lot of movies now with my daughter. She's 15. Yeah, I look at her and she gets the scare that she gets because it's the first time she's watching it. I can never get that because I got that in the 80s when I went to the actual theater to see it. And sometimes I look at her, I'm like, I wish I could get like that, because I remember the feeling when I first saw the Thing, Zombie, or what you call any other movies out there that were back then, like Return of the Living Dead. You used to get that feeling, what's behind the door. Now that you're a horror person, you've watched a lot of movies, you can't get that feeling anymore. You still love them, but you can never think.
And I remember the day I got Day of the Dead. I remember the day that I found it, and I was so surprised that I'd heard of this sequel, and I'd gotten it. And I remember exactly what, you know, the cover where I rented it, and I was so happy to watch it. And then I watched it again later on, and I got the feeling of like, oh my God, I love the claustrophobia of that movie. And like I can still get it with some things. You know, the only album that I've ever listened to back and I've gotten that, oh my God, I'm 16 again. I wasn't there, I was probably 12, but like is the David Lee Roth Skyscraper album, which is not his best album, but there's something about that one album that I can put myself back in the day that I bought it. Day of the Dead's my other one, but I can't do that with anything else.
Bro, that's how I am with certain albums too. You're gonna laugh, like Megadeth's what you call So Good So Far So What. Yeah. I listened to that album. A lot of people don't consider it their best album, you know, Rust in Pieces, but that certain album, I remember when I first heard it, and we used to have a radio station called Shaughnessy's Midnight Metal, and when he played that, I winded up buying it, and from that time, I was always hooked to that album. I always think about myself at that time listening to it late at night and stuff. Yeah,
I've actually got the hoodie to that. That's a great album. I really like that. The Set the World on Fire song, I think, is one of their best songs that they ever did.
I love that song.
You know, I can sing you every word to that. Still to this day, I can sing it, and not well, but I can sing it. But that dropping the bomb with the, you know, I don't set the world, and then that's brilliant.
And then that riff. That's my favorite album. From Megadeth. I consider it to be like it's raw because it's not well produced like the other albums that they comes after that. Because Rust in Peace is a masterpiece because it's well produced. Everything went right for that album. Yeah. The way it is now is a masterpiece. But I just like that rawness that they had. And he was too angry at the time too, with all the going out of Metallica, all the other shit that he wanted to prove himself. And that's why Mustang's thing was the best, the early stuff.
Yeah. And I always preferred Megadeth. I always thought they were technically better. I think they had more variety as far as what their songs were. But I couldn't imagine growing up and he's lived a whole life wondering, I should have been this thing. but he's had a whole career in the meantime that's, you could argue, has been a longer duration of success.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But he can never get that and feel anything other than, I should have been better. I should have done this, And I wonder if he's ever accepted it. He says he has, but I wonder that, because that kind of hatred or whatever really runs deep. It's hard to get that out.
Real quick, let's put it this way. If he would have stayed with Metallica and they would have gone on, he would have been known as the guitarist of Metallica.
Yep.
With Megadeth, when you say Megadeth, he pops up. Dave Mustaine. He is Megadeth. So you know him as that. He's not the guitarist of Metallica. He has his own thing. He was better off for him. That
he was. Yeah.
Because to me, Metallica's real downfall was when Cliff Burton died.
I agree with that. I agree.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When he died, that band totally changed his way of going. If he was alive, I don't believe that they would have done the Black Album the way it came out, or any other album after that. It would have been because he was very strong-minded as well, and he would have not put up with that. And he would think, but sorry, he passed away, and the band went the route that they decided to go on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, would Dave Mustaine have recorded that album? I think he might have. I think he might have. Because he did it. He did it with other things. He did try to soften it. He had the wrestling song, which was a disco song. It was a disco Megadeth song. And he did a few things which were iffy. And he dipped his toe in that water. But, I think as far as, and I don't think many people really give it much time of day, but the system has failed. That song, the Air Force One has been shot down, and you hear that, man, that's intense. That's one of the more intense Megadeth songs like that they ever did. And they say that was a solo album. That was a Dave Mustaine. He wrote everything and did everything, and that I don't know. I just think he's one of those gifted guys that can never appreciate anything because of Dave Mustaine.
Right. He's because my son is that's one of his big time idol. What I've read and learned, and he's always talking to me about it because he's big with what's the other guy's name?
Marty Freeman.
Marty Freeman, yeah, that's my son's biggest. He's going to meet him in January, and because he's coming out with a book. Yeah, he's supposed to. He's invited to that. Yeah, they've never. Like, he always wants perfection. Sometimes when you want that perfection, you never see what you really have accomplished in the beginning. To him, it's never be good enough. That's the problem with Dave that I can say about him, that he's never gonna. He always in his mind is, well, Metallica sold more albums than me, but you don't think that your material's better than theirs. Yeah. You shouldn't judge it by, they sold 30 million copies, I sold 20. No, you just go by what it. Because more people you ask, if you take the modern era of both bands, Megadeth is way better. Way better material has come out from them than Metallica.
But unfortunately, they will always, in the history pages, 50 years down the line, when they say thrash bands, the first one they're always going to mention is Metallica. And Megadeth will always live in the shadow of that because of they weren't the first, and they weren't the ones that broke it, unfortunately. So that's his legacy. But I mean, it's one of those arguments. I think I've had it every decade of my life with someone about this, but it's just he didn't appreciate it. He had something that was better. He's just an angry, bitter man. I think he's incredibly talented, but he can't get out of his own way, right? So
that's true. Yeah, I agree with you on that. That he's really his own enemy. Yeah.
But I really like the Some Kind of Monster movie where they got them together. I thought that was interesting. I'd love to have seen more of that discussion.
Interest and all that. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Even as weak as that was, when you see grown men crying in that regard. I mean, I'm not there. I don't know what was going on, but that I would love to have seen an uncut session of that to really hear all the junk come through. And I mean, I guess I'm a drama queen, but still, that's interesting because that's my time frame,
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you this, Lee. Considering that Tone mentioned his son, I know you say you have children. I have children and grandchildren. What's been the take as far as your kids? Are they involved in as far as music, or do they enjoy metal, or do they look at you and go, no, you're just a weird dad?
Well, to be brutally frank, I mean, my son, who would be 25 now, 23. He was very much a computer game, or he is very much a computer game kid, into different PC stuff and coding and all that. And I think, and I mean, I say all this stuff because I lost, when the divorce went through, my family went that way and I went this way. And so it's a sad situation, but as far as I know, because I keep in contact with my mum and they kind of keep in contact, is that he went off to university to become a game developer, which at the time was probably a great choice. And now it's every kid wants to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So none of them really got into it. And it's funny because my middle daughter, who's the most like me, hates my guts. But
What?
she's the the story is that she went, the mother kind of had the kids go with her, and then because I was working shift work, which was all over the clock, I could never get any type of custody. So it was always 100% the mother. And, in my opinion, I believe that she was like, well, you don't need him. He abandoned us. And to this point, when I come over here, I mean, I do harbor some type of guilt, because it's like, well, I did. In a sense, I mean, I made a choice. I wasn't happy, and I made a choice for myself, which I think in the end is going to be the thing that, I guess it was for my own mental health to come here and be out of there. So when it came up, it didn't take me much of a thing to say, yeah, I'm going to stay because I'm not happy there. So she's likes music in her realm. That's like a lot of the mid 2000s type of metal, which is a lot of, what's that? Something at the disco, Panic at the Disco, like what they call it, emo type of stuff. So that's her time frame. I don't know if anything's changed in that regard. And my little one, she was she was in quite a few movies. She worked for Nickelodeon.
Oh wow!
And now when you hear all the horrible things that they did, I'm hoping she's all right. All right, but yeah, she worked there. She was in some movies back home, horror films. She only did horror films, which is amazing. Like, so I guess I must have somehow been influenced her in that, thing. But yeah, I don't know if she's still acting. The last thing I heard was that she was supposed to be in something that was big. It was the what was that movie from the one with the zombies, but it was a PS5 game.
The House of the Dead. No, House of the Dead.
No, it was the one that was on HBO.
Oh, Resident.
No.
It's huge.
It's the one that just came on HBO. Tone. They got this guy Pedro Pascal.
Yeah. And it was like it wasn't a virus. It was like a plant-based thing that got into them.
Oh crap! I forgot the name.
Yeah, I can't think of the stupid name of it. But apparently she was in that. Yeah.
Damn it! I can't remember the name. And I saw the season. I thought the season was actually it was okay, except for one episode I couldn't really stand.
See, I can't watch seasons. I can't watch those kind of the long. I don't have time. It's got to be the one shot deal.
The Last of Us.
Last of Us. There you go. Yeah. So apparently she was in that. So I've watched that thing. So unless she was a zombie that they did her up, I didn't see her. So I don't know. But that was the murmurs that I heard. So I'll have to say if that's I can't say for 100% fact that that's true. But so they're actors and computer game designers, and I don't know what the middle one does except just hating on me, I guess. So she's a full-time hater, full-time Dave Mustaine. The other one probably doesn't care, and the other one's got a whole life playing video games. So like kids do,
Yeah, stuff.
You got yourself a Bill Gates and a Mustaine. Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, if he's got any money, I might try to make friends with him again. Who knows? It's your old dad. Remember me?
Oh man. Well, look, let me just get this question. This is a question I always ask everybody that comes on.
Sure.
as far as music goes, and you already mentioned your influences and so on. You said you play, you play guitar, you did drums. All right, if you had to do an all-star band with members dead or alive, who would it be?
Drummers. Who would be my drummer? Listen, Bill Andrews from Def.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love the simplicity, the meat and potatoes drums. Right.
yeah.
I think as far as drummers goes, he gets the job done and there's no flash. Right. Singers. It's going to sound like I'm on a death click, but like a death metal click. But Glenn Benton, I think, is one of the best deliverer of vocals, I think, in the extreme scene. As far as how he spits them out, and they're all very audible. The way he's, the messages. I mean, everything. I think he's very powerful. I think his words are great. Guitar players. Jeez.
Well, I mean, of course, you're going to be playing guitar too, so you're in the band.
I'll be playing guitar.
Yeah, you're in the band.
Who's
another guitarist? Who would it be?
Look, if I just had to have a guy that I thought was awesome and he wouldn't even fit the style of the other two, Steve Vai is, I think, back in that day, I think one of the most exciting players. But on my other guitar player, if I could just sit back and watch, Steve Stevens, who I remember seeing Billy Idol in 1986, and he was jumping off these massive amplifiers. This little, Italian guy with this massive hair that was out here. Wow. And he was a monster. I only saw him recently on the TV, and he looks the same. I mean, his hair's over his face. Can't see what's going on under there, but phenomenal guitar player. He's got all the flash, and I think Steve Vai's got all the skill, right? Mm-hmm. Bass players, you could pretty much throw anyone in a bass playing role, right? I mean, I can play bass. So let's just put, you know who? There was a band called Society One. Have you ever heard of them?
Society One, no.
Society One. They were an LA band. Their claim to fame was the singer was a guy called Matt Zane, who his father was a guy who introduced, I hope I'm not lying here, but he introduced VHS tapes to America.
Oh, wow.
Okay, now that's the thing. But he was he had an adult film industry. So Society One's thing was big when new metal came out. And he was the guy that there's photos of him being suspended over like a crowd, like a festival crowd with hooks in his back. Mm-hmm. All right. You can have a look at it. It's the most severe thing I've ever seen. But the bass player in that was a guy called son of a bitch. I know him as Eric because of that. But oh shit. Anyway, he was in Society One. He had a cool Karloff, DV Karloff.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So big. So he was a tattoo artist. Funny story quickly, and I'll promise I won't do it. But I was talking. I always loved him, and I got the tattoo on my hand because he had the exact same tattoo, and I loved it so much. He's got it on both hands. So I'm in LA. The not wife at the time, but she's with me. She comes over. We're hanging out. Well, I didn't know, but she's friends with DV. So I've always enjoyed this guy for 20 years or 14 years at that point. I've loved the look of this guy. Hated the band. Didn't think the band was worth shit, but he was just looked cool. He was a big guy, massive beard, bald head. And I'm sitting in of all places, I'm sitting at the Rainbow, the famous seat, man, where all like you used to see Rolling Stones and Gunners sitting in that booth. It's right in front of a fireplace. Food comes out, and I watch this massive gentleman walk through the thing. And when you look at someone, you go, I think I know him. I don't know what I know him from, and he comes in, and my face just must have gone pale. But I look at him, and the wife has invited him, said that, look, he's a fan, come down.
Oh wow!
And he shows up, and he looks at me. He looks at my tattoo on my hand, and he goes, "Nice tattoo." That was the only thing he said. And it was like I almost died. But yeah, DV Karloff. If you haven't, he just passed away. So I kind of attribute him as the guy that made me meet my wife, because if we didn't have mutual friends and I wasn't a fan,
That's cool.
It's a weird 7 doors of whatever. But yeah, he passed away of a heart attack only 3 years ago or something. And sad. He was the nicest guy. He was in another, he wasn't a new metal guy. He was in another band called Hate hate something, hate music or hate flag. No, hate speech. So no, was it hate speech? Whatever it was. It was like a black metal band that was more rock, but they were just they had a cool look about him. And then he was in Three-Headed Snake, which was going places, and then he had the heart attack.
Oh wow.
So yeah. But great guy. He was really friendly to us, and he's a so he's my bass player. Just so I can bring him back from the dead. Nicest guy in the world.
Why not? Why
The
not?
band would sound like shit, man. We got Glenn Bench, Steve Stevens, Steve Vai, the DV, and Bill Andrews. It'd be a mess.
Yeah, I
But
think
I'm done with it.
it out. They'll work it. They'll
It'll
come out.
work. It'll work.
That would suck. The fight.
Hey, so I got my last question for you. It's
I've enjoyed this, guys. I've really enjoyed. I've covered so many
bro,
things. I love this stuff.
Lee, I would love to hang out with you.
Yeah.
Yes, you're up my definitely we could act. If you have just want to know, pick your 5 best metal albums of all time, and the second part of the question, your 5 best horror movies of all time.
Okay, well, horror movies easy. I can rip those ones. So, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead have always had a special place. I love them both, and I think they're just as good as each other. I don't care who's the purist on that one. The other one would be, for horror movie, would be Texas Chainsaw 3.
Whoa!
3. All right.
Oh,
because
3.
it had the metal soundtrack. It introduced like Death Angel was on it. It had the Saw as the Law, which I don't know if was that actually. Oh no, it was at the end, right? They played it through the credits at the end. I always loved that film. I thought the Leatherface was way more brutal in that one. What are we up to? Number 4, Zombie Flesh Eaters or Zombie 2, rightio. Yeah. And then Demons, and you can pick whichever one or 2, because it doesn't matter because they're exactly the same movie. All right, there we go.
Yeah.
Such a brilliant movie. It's basically the same. All of those movies share a common theme. They've all got the same plot, right? Metal. Okay, so I want to throw in a recent, though it can't be called my favorite, but the not the newest Satanic War Master, but the Ganda or whatever the second last Satanic War Master. I listen to that religiously. Okay, there's a song on that brings tears to my eyes. It's so good. Kiss Crazy Nights, because it was the first album that got me into Kiss. Okay, I'll take that to a desert island over all of them. At least that's got 4 big songs on it. You can't say that for every Kiss album, right?
Yeah.
Kill 'Em All, just because of nostalgia again. Okay, and let's go crazy. Death, Spiritual Healing.
Wow.
That's my favorite Death album.
My favorite Death album too.
And the reason is the guitar. Like, I think James Murphy, I don't know if he was a great player.
James Murphy's the best, man.
Yeah, he kind of did the Cancer album after that. That was awesome as well. But there was something about the way, there's something about that Spiritual Healing that just had heavy riffs that, I don't know, it resonated with me more than Leprosy. I thought the drum sound on Leprosy sucked. But something about Human just worked for me better than this one.
Nice.
And I got one more, right?
Yeah,
one more.
One more. You're on a roll.
On a roll. The easy answer would be something with Slayer, but I really loved. I really still do love Judas Priest, Ram It Down. Okay.
Man. All right.
Yeah. Now that's the forgotten album in between, like Painkiller, right?
Painkiller. Yep.
What was the one before it? Was it Turbo? Couldn't have been Turbo.
Wasn't Turbo? Yeah, was Turbo? I think was before Painkiller.
Turbo, yeah, Turbo.
Was it?
Ram It Down, and then Painkiller, right?
Yeah, I think so. I feel that that's right. But they took that synthesized guitar sound that they had. I don't know what that was. To me, it felt like it was running through some stuff, but it was just big, it was smooth, and they put metal songs to it, and it had Blood Red Skies, Ram It Down. Jesus, Johnny Be Good. Even though everyone hates that, I got a special place for that. Like, I don't think there's a bad song on that whole album. All right, and I'll be roasted for that, I'm sure. But I love that album.
Definitely gonna play it tonight. I haven't heard that in a while.
It's a gem. It's a gem.
And stuff.
Great album.
What do you think of the new Judas Priest album?
Never. I didn't hear the new one. I heard the one before that. The Firepower. Was it
Yeah.
Firepower? That was awesome. How the newer one, I don't know. I just slipped by and I haven't heard it. But Firepower with that new guitar player, I thought was absolutely phenomenal. You know, I did see the Nostradamus tour when it came to Australia, and it was just long and boring. All I really wanted to hear was Painkiller. That was it. You know.
Yeah, we went to see it in Painkiller. Me, Bear, and my cousin at Nassau Coliseum. That was a hell of a show.
Yeah, Megadeth and Testament.
Yeah, Megadeth and Testament.
Yeah, that was.
And that's when Dave Mustaine was angry.
He was angry again, was he?
Again, yeah. Matter of fact, that was the show that he ripped the sleeves off. You know that he's always now has the white shirt without the sleeves. Yeah. That was the show that he ripped the sleeves off.
Oh, and really?
And the whole place went berserk, and they would rip into chairs and the whole nine at the Coliseum.
Do you remember there was that rumor that he used to wear white because Hetfield wore black? Do you reckon that was a real thing?
I didn't know that. No.
No? You wanted to be the anti-James Hetfield?
Wow, I didn't know that. So the yin and yang.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There wasn't many metal guys doing that. He had white pants on and a white shirt.
Wow.
But Lee,
photo of it like that. You want to know something funny, Lee? That the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 was released in America cut. And some of the metal bands that were on that soundtrack didn't make it on the American version. I didn't know about some of those songs until I saw the VHS of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You mentioned it. I was like, wow, a lot of people don't know that they tweaked it here in America. They cut off a couple of scenes, and then some of the bands didn't make that the American cut.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, that was just like it even had the guy. It had that Ken Foree in it, the Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah,
the black guy from that, like he was in it. It had a stellar cast. It was strong as shit.
With the the truck that he was when he came when they had gotten stuck.
Yeah, but it was just a great movie, and I think I don't know. I don't hear anyone talk about it. I think it's awesome. Metal soundtrack and Leatherface. How do you lose?
Yeah, I really didn't care for the second movie, Texas Chainsaw. A lot of people get mad when I say it. I thought it went too comedy.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing either.
Yeah.
People say that about Evil Dead, right? They didn't like they prefer the first grittiness of that one and whatever of the other one.
Yeah, I like first Evil Dead.
Yeah. But you know, funny thing, Matt. Okay, so I know I did those films in recent times. The Mad Max Fury Road if I had to watch any other film or watch that one, Mad Max Fury Road is my ultimate Mad Max film. If you happen to give a fuck, as the dog would say. Greatest movie. I haven't even seen Furiosa. I don't want to do it. It's got the guy from Marvel in it. If it's got he's a kiss of death. So I'm not even going to watch it.
I liked it, but I ain't love it. Let's put it. Yeah, I went because it was a Mad Max and what you call Miller directed it. So I go to he directed every Mad Max movie. So I go because I'm not big with the Thunderdome. Either.
No, that was the kids, the planes, the walls. But they had the Thunderdome was cool. That was kind of a cool thing. Well, the rest of it sucks.
Master Blaster became that's the only part. Master Blaster became a legend out of that, and the Thunderdome. But after the rest of the movie was.
Yeah, that was shocking. The pig farm and all that, pig killer, that was cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, apparently on that, the story that was in Australia was that when they were doing Fury Road, he didn't write a script for that. So the movie house was like, we're going to come out and have a look. You haven't sent us anything. They show up on scene. They watch a half-an-hour car chase, which is the front part of that movie.
Yeah.
And there's no dialogue. And they go, where's the script? And they're like, there's no script. So they're like, what are we paying for? There's no script. It's like a half-an-hour car chase. So they took all the funding out of that movie. So George Miller had to sell all of his personal to finish that particular movie. Wow. Right? And then it went on to win awards. Like, didn't it win an Oscar for something?
I don't know if it won the Oscar, it was nominated.
Yeah, something. I thought it won something. thought it won one of those awards.
Special effects, I think it won for best Oscar. But I don't know if it became movie of the. I got to look back because it's rarely I watch the Oscars. It has to be a movie that I'm cheering for so it can win to me to watch it. And because they're like you know how they are. They believe horror is porn. They don't. You ever notice a movie wins like Silence of the Lamb? That's a horror. They call it a thriller. Yeah. Then you have Shades of Water that won. Shape of Water. The
zombie was that the zombie one?
No.
That was
the Creature of the Black Lagoon. That was like a remake of the Creature of Black Lagoon.
Right.
They called it a erotic thriller.
Oh, okay. All right.
They didn't even want to call what it is. It's a horror. They never call a movie that. Now they're saying the vampire movie that's coming out now. Nosferatu. They're saying that's going to get Oscar buzz. And now they're calling it a dark fantasy.
Oh, okay. It used to be thriller and suspense, right? Well, wasn't that the way it used to be?
They won't use the word horror.
I understand.
It's the bastard child of genre, all right? I mean, it's the illegitimate something. But, I've never heard of a horror film that won an Oscar. Like, straight out was called a horror film and it won an Oscar.
No, they won't call it. But the funny thing is, if you take all the horror movies that are made and take compare their budget to the budget from the blockbuster, you make more money on horror movies than you would on a big budget movie.
Yeah,
look at how Halloween made all the money, the Friday the 13th, and the budgets were only under $10 million, and your back profit was hundreds of millions. But
I think that says a lot for the fans, though. Like, horror fans are horror fans. It's very rare that they drop out of it. Yeah, most of them stick around for horror, so they'll go with that. It's like anything else. But an action fan or a Marvel fan will go and see whatever movie happens to be the big one at the time, right? Mm-hmm. Where a horror fan will go and see that Halloween 8 because maybe this time they'll give us something good, but like always with high hopes, and we always come out disappointed. Everyone will go see that Return of the Living Dead, and it's probably going to suck, but they'll watch it. So they'll pay for it, they'll watch it, and maybe they've got
that part. It's the same with the conventions. You never see no conventions for anything else but horror movies.
That's right.
Yeah, these stars that just made one or two. You I know you remember what you call Burial Ground.
Yeah,
the
boob scene, right? The breast scene. Oh yeah,
the guy that played the little kid, that adult. He goes, Mama. Yeah, him. In Italy, he lives off that movie. They even have chocolate bars with his face on it, and pillows, and all kinds of shit. He's making millions of it, and he was only known for that one movie.
And it's the creepiest scene on any movie ever. And not just the boob bite; it's the everything where he's hugging, and the mother's like, she's letting him put her hands up a dress. I'm like, what's going on here? Even at my younger age, I'm like, this isn't sexy at all. This is, But I'm not going to say that if you search for Google, mother and son things don't pop up.
Yep.
But that is like the one thing I'm just like, no.
That sounds like a new Revic song.
Yeah, that's a better thing. But Barrett, you got anything else to add?
I want to Lee. What you want to send it off with maybe talking about the FRONTMAN Productions, or give us something that so everybody could get into your music, get into to the label.
Yeah. Links,
everyone can come to Instagram. I'm on Instagram, Warhammer666. The Bandcamp's the same. The Fomorian guys, we had a meeting last night. The big focus now, after my buzz kind of tapers out, is the split, where we're going to have they gone out and told everyone yet? I'm so out the loop. Have they told everyone yet who's going to be on it? I know you guys just said that you were going to be on it, and I did know about you. Yeah, but did they?
I know.
Did they mention
you? I'm not sure about anybody else.
So, rumor has it. and I heard this from good source, and you think I should know, but apparently Mordet's throwing on something. Yeah, which is surprising because I'm really interested in as to what he puts on, because I think the way he thinks might be something else, but who knows? He did say he wanted to be on it. So there's that. So the big push is to get that out, and the next, I guess, legitimate release of a band that's going to be part of that is going to be Matt's Inebriated Winds. It's called, which is the greatest name in black metal for the last 6 months, I guess. But that's our new push coming up. We tried to see a Kaya, as I say, Kia. He's writing for something now, probably around the middle of the year. But all the attention at the moment will go for Matt's and the sampler that's going to come out once they compile all of that. Ooh. So it's still a lot of behind the scenes stuff. But as far as me, man, I'm happy as hell with the way that the CD and cassette went. You know, I love this interview. This is one of the most freest open interviews I've had, where I've kind of get to talk about all the cool shit that I like instead of just music.
Oh, we're here to please. We're here to please.
Yeah, man. That's
so thank you too, you know, because I've watched your show from early on, and I've always had a ton of respect for New York City, and obviously you guys being from there, because, you know, rough and tough guys. But you know, I've always watched your show, so thank you for having me on, Barry. Because I love being a part of it.
Good, man. Good. I wish you nothing but success, man, and just keep it going.
For sure, I will try.
All right, so we're gonna end it over here, guys. I want to thank everybody who's been watching. Please like and subscribe. Make sure you check out Warhammer 666. I said Warhammer, okay? I didn't say Warmaster. Just saying. All right.
Warmaster 666.
All right, and I'm Barry, the Goat Master. It's got Tone, Joker, NYC. I want to thank you guys for watching. This is Barry, That Goat Metal Show. Stay brutal.